Hey guys, we're back with notes for 3.3, that's graphing slope-intercept form. So we're going to be using a lot of y equals mx plus b today. If you would, freeze the screen, go ahead and write what you see. Perfect. So one thing that I need you to know is that this equation will be used from now all the way until Christmas break. The most two important things in this equation are the m and the b. Those are the guys that are going to tell us how to make our graph. So our m is our slope. That tells us how the graph is going to move. When we describe it, remember that that's a fraction. It's our rise and our run. We're going to need to make it a fraction. For the y-intercept, make sure that you know that that is where we're going to begin our first point on the y-axis. Okay? So in order to graph it, we have to make sure that we can recognize our m and b. So our slope is always going to be the number with x. If I look at this first row, the slope is the number with x. It's not the x, it's just the number with it. So my slope would be 2. Don't write the x, just write the m. On the second example, now it's in a different order, but my slope is still the number that's with x. So it would be 1/2. Now, that 1/2 is negative. So who takes the negative, the 1 or the 2? It should be with the 1. The top number controls the rise up or down. The run should always be positive, okay? All right, my slope in that third example should be 2/3 because 2/3 is with the x. But on this fourth one, it's going to start to get a little different. I don't have any x's in the equation y equals 1. So because I have no x's, my slope is 0. Okay, and 0x plus 1. And for this last one, we're going to save him and do that all at once. Okay, so let's talk about y-intercept on the first couple. My y-intercept is the constant number. He does not have a variable with him. So on this first example, that would be 4, a positive 4. On the second example, it would be a positive 3. On the third example, we have a weirdness. There's nothing else over here. So because there's no extra number, we say that the y-intercept is 0. Okay? For that last one, y equals 1, 1 is the constant. 1 doesn't have a variable with him, so 1 is my y-intercept. Okay? All right, when it comes to this last equation, he's not even y equals mx plus b. He's not even set up right. So I don't have an m. I don't have a b. I don't have any number that I can put there. So we're going to use our words. What's the only slope word that's not a number? That would be undefined. Undefined is what your graph will look like if it starts with x equals. Okay? Because of that, I am not going to have a y-intercept. I'm not going to be able to intersect the y-axis because my graph is going to be vertical. Okay? We are not going to hit the y-axis at all. So on the x equals, those are the weird ones. They don't get numbers. They get the word answers. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and set up the first two problems. Okay? One of the first things that I want to make sure that you know, let me change colors real quick. One of the first things I want to make sure you know is that f of x is the same as y equals. So you're going to see both mixed in this unit, but they mean the same thing. Okay? All right, second thing I want to make sure we know is that slope is our m and y-intercept is our b. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and fill these in. So on problem 1, who is my slope? That's going to be 2/3. Make sure it's a fraction. Because it's 2/3, I know I'm positive, rising up 2, and I'm running 3. If I was to do the same thing on problem 2, my slope would be negative 1/2. The 1 takes the negative, the 2 stays positive. That negative sign lets me know that I'm rising down or dropping, but I always run to the right. Okay, so that's going to be the difference of how the arrows are used to help you make a decision. When it comes to the b, we're going to use the number at the end. So my y-intercept on problem 1 would be a negative 4. That's going to tell me where I begin my first dot. So my first dot is going to start down here on negative 4. For problem 2, my y-intercept is 3. So I would begin up here at 3. Okay, so it tells you where to put the first dot. It does need to be on the y-axis. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slope. On problem 1, you were telling me to rise 2, bloop, bloop, run 3, bloop, bloop, bloop. That tells you where your next dot goes. Now, do you need to do the little cloud jumps? No. But I do need to see that you can continue the pattern. Rise 2, run 3. Rise 2, run 3 backwards. So what's the opposite of going up 2 and right 3? Well, I would change it to down 2 and left 3. That's how I would go backwards. Okay. When you draw the lines, make sure your graph goes all the way across. Make sure it has arrows on both sides and that it doesn't look like this. It needs to be pretty straight. You should be able to make it decent. Okay. Let's try number 2. Number 2, I began at 3 and I'm going to go down 1, right 2. So I'm going to follow that. Bloop, bloop, bloop. That's my second dot. Do you need to do the cloud jumps? No. But you should be able to continue the pattern. Down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. If I'm going backwards, that means I'm going to go up 1, left 2. Up 1, left 2. Up 1, left 2. Up 1, left 2. That is your full graph. Make sure you go all the way across with as many dots that will fit. Make your line straight and put arrows on both sides. Okay? When you're done with this page, go ahead and flip it. All right, problems 3 and 4. On this page, you're going to start to see a couple of slopes that come off as whole numbers. Make sure that we keep slope a fraction. So on problem 3, problem 3. So if my slope is 3, how would I make that a fraction? Well, I'm going to put it over 1. So when you make slope a fraction, put whole numbers over 1. Okay, that means I'm rising 3, running 1. Problem 4 doesn't have that issue. We have a negative 1/4, and we're going to make the 1 take the negative. That means that I'm going down 1 and right 4. Okay, let's talk about the y-intercept on these two problems. On problem 3, my y-intercept is a negative 6. So my beginning point will be way down here at negative 6. My y-intercept on 4, though, there isn't anything over here. So we're going to use 0. That means I'm going to get to start right in the middle at the origin. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and follow our slope. Problem 3 is going to rise 3, run 1. Rise 3 up, run 1 to the right. Rise 3 up, run 1 to the right. And we're going to do that over and over until I'm all the way across the graph. Make sure your line is as straight as it can be, and that there are arrows on both sides. Problem 3, we're going to go down 1 and to the right 4 spaces. I can only fit 1 dot that direction, which means I need to check backwards. To go backwards, we're going to go up 1 and left 4, making sure that they end up in a straight line. So if you go up and right, or if you go down and left, see that that doesn't make a straight line. You have to go backwards. So up 1, left 4. Okay? We're going to go ahead and connect our lines. Make sure that it doesn't look like this. Make sure that the line goes all the way across and that you have arrows on both sides. Okay? We're going to do 3 more questions. So we're actually going to skip number 6. We're going to skip number 5 and do number 6. Reminder again, what does f of x mean? Hopefully you remember that that's the y equals. So the slope here is going to be the number in front of x. I don't have a number, but I also see an x, so it can't be 0. I see 1x, and we make it a whole number by putting it over 1. My y-intercept is going to be negative 6 again. So when I do my slope, I'm going to rise 1, run 1, and we're starting down there at the negative 6 on the bottom. All right, so rise 1, run 1. I like these because I get to connect all the corners. Okay, and they're really close together, so it makes drawing your line really easy. Okay, that is the end of problem 6. We're going to do the last 2 questions, problem 7 and 8, and we're going to call it a day. Problem number 7. When I write my slope, I'm looking for my x's. I don't have any x's. Make that note, no x's. So my slope is 0. I do have a y-intercept. My y-intercept is 4. So my first dot right here is going to be on the 4, and I need to remember that a 0 graph means that I can draw a z with it. It's going to be a horizontal line. So I'm going to draw my 0 slope straight across my graph. That's the end. Those ones are probably the easiest once you memorize them. Okay? All right, let's do the same thing for problem 8. Problem 8 doesn't have a y equals, which means he's the weird one. He's the one with the words instead of numbers. So what's the word for slope that's not a number? It's undefined. And what is the y-intercept that's not a number? Well, we would say there is none, because that graph is going to be vertical. So let me draw the line again. I'm going to draw it off the graph. All right, so with this problem, how am I supposed to know where I start? I know that I have a vertical line, but I don't know where he is. Well, we want our x to be -3. So we're going to line our graph up, and we're going to begin at that -3 on the x-axis. So make yourself a note. Oops. Start at -3 on x-axis. Okay, so if you have an x equals, you put the dot on the x-axis. If you have a y equals, you're going to put that first dot on the y-axis. Okay? All right, hopefully you got enough information to find success on 3.3 practice. If you did not, go ahead and come see me. Good luck.